an 8-year period from the 1956 season through the 1963 season, Yankee Stadium was the home field of the NFL's most glamorous franchise, the New York Giants. During this period, Giant fans would travel to the Bronx to see the game played by future Hall of Famers named Huff, Gifford, Robustelli, Tittle, Rosie Brown, and the late Emlyn Tunnell. And another player, Charlie Connerly, should be in the Hall of Fame. Good evening, this is Warner Wolf, and for the next half hour, you'll hear from the players and coaches who were there during the Giants' all-pro years. The football Giants. Their history dates back to 1925 when Timothy J. Mara, father of Giants' current president Wellington Mara, purchased the NFL franchise for just $500. But the most memorable period in the history of the Giants began in the decade of the 1950s. In 1956, after playing their home games in the Polo Grounds for 31 years, the Giants moved into Yankee Stadium. Over the next 8 seasons, the Giants would be the winningest regular season team in the National Football League.
So you had that feeling every time you'd go to summer camp in that 8-year span, you figured you were going to be in the championship game.
But we didn't figure, we knew it.
The Giants completed their first season in Yankee Stadium by winning the Eastern Division title and would play the Chicago Bears for the NFL championship. Just 4 weeks before the championship game, the same Giants and Bears played on the same field to a 17-17 tie because of this unbelievable catch by Bears end Harlan Hill. But in the championship game, it was over in the first half. Final score, Giants 47, Bears 7.
Man, we hit them right from the beginning. We took them apart. There was no contest.
Going into the championship game, you had no feeling that it was going to be a blowout, did you? Or...
Well, you know, that year, Warner, that club, it just seemed like every time we stepped onto we were going to win. I look back in those teams, in those days, we'd go out at night and with the wives and have dinner, go have a couple of beers after practice. You know, we didn't have any agents. You know, we were always together.
If you ever thought about jumping to another team, your teammates would ostracize you.
Now, besides the camaraderie that existed, there was also something of a rivalry between the Giants' offense and the Giants' defense.
A rivalry did exist. There's a natural rivalry in every professional football team in training camp. However, it was a little heavier than you would find on most ball clubs.
Come on. You're not going to hurt him. Let's go.
I think that we were a little unhappy when the offense would really take a game and control the game, because we wanted to be the dominant part of that team, and we were.
No, we weren't terribly fond of the defensive team, and they were kind of stuck on themselves, and they were really good. And we knew they were good, but there's no sense telling them that, and they were tough enough to live with. I mean, there were some pretty strong egos over there.
We were so good. Gifford wouldn't scrimmage against us. Gifford and Schaffner used to carry the yardsticks.
Sam was a great linebacker. Sam was a pain in the, you know what. I mean, he was always needling, agitating, and it was good. It was good for our ball club. Sam was mean. You look at that little cherubic face, and he was mean. I didn't want to scrimmage against him, of course not. I mean, he didn't have enough sense not to hurt me because I was going to help him win football games.
From 1954 until 1960, the Giants' head coach was Jim Lee Howe.
Now, Blaine, even though you can't run, you can come off on the ball.
Howe also had a couple of pretty fair assistant coaches. Tom Landry, who coached the defense, and Vince Lombardi, who coached the offense.
There was only one way that you're going to do something, and that was Coach Lombardi's way.
We used to call him Mr. High-Low. You know, if his team played, if offense played well, boy, he would be elated. And if it played bad, he wouldn't speak to us for 4 days, you know.
Vince might have had some ill feeling towards the defense. I don't think Tom looked at the offense that way.
Throughout the 1950s, the Giants' #1 quarterback was Charlie Connerly. He came to the Giants in 1948. By the late 1950s, the Giants were looking to back up an aging Connerly. One man who stepped forward to take Connerly's place was none other than his teammate, Frank Gifford.
Charlie Connerly was 38 years old. He was my roommate. And before I did it, I flew down to Clarksdale, Mississippi, and spent the weekend with him and told him I was going to ask Jim Lee Howell if I could play quarterback.
What was his reaction?
He said, go for it. They've been bringing him in here for 10 years now to get me out of here.
Well, I wasn't a runner like Frank, but Frank could run, and he couldn't throw as good as I could. And I'm glad he didn't get me out of a job.
Playing winning football in New York, the Giants found themselves, according to some players, the objects of an anti-New York sentiment.
A man that doesn't play for the New York team loves nothing more than taking the big New Yorkers down.
Most people resented us. They didn't like to see me doing commercials, endorsements, being on covers of magazines, but they felt that they were better. I don't blame them.
After losing the '62 championship game to Green Bay in sub-freezing temperatures, Gifford met Packer fullback Jimmy Taylor.
I had a limousine, and he was looking for a taxi. And I walked over to my limousine with my wife, and I turned around and had said goodbye to Jimmy already. I said, Jimmy, said, you may have beaten us, but you still have to go back to Green Bay.
Unlike the rookie ball player of today, who can become a millionaire overnight, for the rookie in the 1950s, it was an entirely different ball game.
When I first signed a contract, I signed it for $7,000, right? And I was from West Virginia. And that's the first time, basically, I'd ever been in New York City. So we settled on $7,000, which I thought I was ripping the Giants off. And Wellington asked me, he said, do you need any money? And I said, yes, I owe $500 on my furniture. I need $500. So he writes me out a check, which I think was a bonus, right? And so I go home, I'm a big shot. Now I got $500. I've never seen that kind of money. So I pay off my furniture and everything, and when I go with the Giants, I make the team. I get my first paycheck. $500 is deducted. So I go to Well, I said, hey, you know, you took $500 out of my paycheck. You know, what is that? He said, well, I gave you an advancement when you signed the contract. I said, no, you gave me a bonus. He said, Sam, there's a difference between an advancement and a bonus, and you just learned the difference.
The 1958 football season was one of the most dramatic and disappointing in Giants history. By defeating the Cleveland Browns on the final day of the regular season, on Pat Summerall's 49-yard field goal in the snow, both the Giants and the Browns finished with 9-3 records. A playoff game was played the following week, which the Giants won 10-0, as the Giant defense held the great Jimmy Brown to his worst day ever, 8 yards on 7 carries. Thus, the stage was now set for the NFL championship game. The New York Giants versus the Baltimore Colts, played before 64,000 at Yankee Stadium on December the 28th, 1958. Baltimore's roster was made up of 6 future Hall of Famers: John Unitas, Raymond Berry, Lenny Moore, Jim Parker, Gino Marchetti, and Artie Donovan Jr.
You know, going into a game against the Baltimore Colts, you know what Tom Landry used to say? He said, we're 7 points down because they have Unitas and Lenny Moore.
I think Baltimore was a much better team than we were. I really do. They had better personnel, and we played them and looked like we was going to beat them. But
the Colts were leading 14-3 in the third quarter when the Giants took over deep in their own territory. Connerly completed a third down pass to Kyle Rote, who traveled 62 yards before being stripped of the ball on the Colt 25-yard line.
You recall that play?
Very much. In fact, I called it.
Oh, you did?
I didn't call the fumble part.
Fortunately for the Giants, Alex Webster was trailing the play.
And I just happened to be in the vicinity when he got hit and fumbled and got fortunate enough to pick it up. I got to the 1.
Right.
And the next play, Charlie Connerly, I think everybody in the world knew that he was going to try to give the ball to me to make a touchdown. And I got killed. I got back in the huddle and I said, I don't want that ball. And they gave it to Triplett on the next play and we scored.
The Giants took the lead late in the fourth quarter on a 15-yard touchdown pass from Connerly to Gifford. So with the score, Giants 17, Colts 14, and just over 2 minutes left in the game, the Giants had the ball 3rd down and 4 on their own 40-yard line. The call went to number 16, Gifford. On the play, Colts defensive end Gino Marchetti broke his leg. Did Gifford make the first down?
Oh, I know I did. It wasn't any question. I played football long enough. I didn't even look over to the yard marker.
Many of the Giants thought that Gifford had made the first down.
We didn't think it. We knew it.
No, they didn't make it. You didn't make it. No.
In your mind,
No. And as Marchetti went to tackle Gifford, he cut back and he ran into me. He didn't see, I don't see how he couldn't see me, but he didn't see me, and the 3 of us fell over. We fell down. Now, whether they made it or not, God only knows. I can't say they did. I can't say they didn't. Maybe somebody pushed the ball back a little bit, you know.
Referee Ron Gibbs agreed with the Colts, said Gifford didn't make it. The Giants decided to punt, and Don Chandler's kick was taken on the Baltimore 14. After 2 incomplete passes, Unitas had a 3rd down and was 86 yards away from the Giants' end zone.
And that's when we saw Mr. Unitas. I call him Dr. Unitas. I thought he did the greatest surgery, brain surgery job that I've ever seen. Just
Unitas connected on 5 straight completions, 3 of them to Raymond Berry.
We had no business moving the ball, 80 yards against that defense. They were the best in the league.
Johnny's a take-charge guy, and whatever he did, we would try to make it work.
There were a lot of checkoffs in the series, principally because of the way Savari was playing and the way Huff was playing. And then Sam started to worry about Raymond catching so many balls over the middle that he started backing out of the middle guard position.
With 20 seconds left in regulation, Baltimore called upon Steve Myra, who had made only 4 out of 10 field goals during the regular season.
We called Myra Winky and mumbled because you didn't know what the hell he was saying. He was always blinking and blah, 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 blah. So how you feel, Steve? Well, that meant he felt good. I don't know, And what people don't realize is Myra played the whole game on defense as linebacker after the first play.
Myra's field goal tied the score at 17-17, sending the game into overtime. Despite winning the toss of the coin and electing to receive, the Giants could not move the ball. Unitas then took over and moved the Colts to the Giants' 1-yard line, where Alan Amici then went over for the winning touchdown in a game now called the greatest game ever played.
As far as being the greatest game ever played, that's a lot of nonsense. We lost it. How can it be the greatest game ever played?
Whether this game was the greatest ever played is certainly debatable. However, as championship games go, it does remain as one of the most exciting ever played. And it took place at a time when television would bring pro football into the homes of America. In 1960, pro football's popularity was given another boost when CBS televised a documentary called The Violent World of Sam Huff.
I'm Walter Cronkite. If you were a professional football player, the middle linebacker of the New York Football Giants, and your name was Sam Huff, this is what it would be like.
1, 2, 3. What do you do that for, 88? You do that one more time, 88, I'm going to sock you one. Now, don't do that. You run again, you'll get a broken nose. Don't do that. Hit me on the chin with your elbow.
When they were doing the film, there was a pileup, and Harlan Hill came all the way across the field and hit me. And I looked at him and I said, Harlan, the play is over, right? What are you doing hitting me? And he said, Sam, I'm just trying to get on TV.
By 1960, 2 key members of the Giants coaching staff had moved on. Vince Lombardi left following the 1958 season to turn the Green Bay Packers into a powerhouse. 1 year later, Tom Landry became the head coach of the expansion Dallas Cowboys. After Jim Lee Howell retired following the 1960 season, Giants offensive coordinator Allie Sherman was named new head coach, but only after the Giants tried and failed to see if Vince Lombardi could be released from his Green Bay contract. Sherman immediately informed the Maras that either a trade be made for a backup quarterback and a wide receiver, or 1961 would be a rebuilding year.
And that, sure enough, we went to training camp, and Wellington came to me, about I forget, maybe the early part of the second week. He said, I hear some news down in San Francisco, and Tittle might be available. And he said, what do you think? Would you like him? I said, go get him.
After over a decade in pro football, Y.A. Tittle became a New York Giant.
I remember talking to Sam Huff when I first arrived at the New York Giant training camp, and I made the comment to him, Sam, I really don't see how you guys win because the speed here is no better than in San Francisco.
And I said to him, I said, yeah, let me tell you something. It's great to have you here. It really is. You're going to score a lot of points for us. But I said, we win with you, we win without you.
Not believing in the two-quarterback system, Sherman had a new problem. Who was his #1 quarterback, Connerly or Tittle? Sherman met privately with both men and explained the situation 2 weeks before the '61 opener.
Charlie just sat there and he kind of, in his own little way, scratched his cleats. He says, well, shoot, he said, I've won it before, and I just want to win again, whatever you say. And Y.A., and he was a totally different guy than Charlie, as you know, with his bubbly way, and he says, well, dang, I've never won it, but I want to win it too, and it's okay. However you want to go, it's okay with me. I said, okay.
Tittle eventually became the #1 quarterback, and Connerly retired after the '61 season. With the acquisition of Del Schaffner from the Rams, the Giants now had an explosive offense. Tittle and Schaffner each made All-Pro, and the Giants won 3 straight division titles. After losing to Green Bay in '61 and '62, the 38-year-old Tittle had his greatest season ever in '63. 36 touchdown passes. The Giants finished 11-3 and met the Chicago Bears, who allowed an average of only 10 points a game for the NFL championship.
They were not a great offensive team. However, they were probably, for that 1 year, the greatest defensive team I've ever seen.
Trailing 7-0 in the second quarter, Bears linebacker Larry Morris intercepted Tittle's screen pass and ran the ball back 61 yards to the Giant 5, setting up Billy Wade's tying touchdown. Then came the biggest play of the game. Linebacker Morris hit Tittle as he was attempting to pass.
I did slip, I guess, going back to pass, but it was a miserable field. We were playing in tennis shoes on an icy field. And so many times the quarterback can get hurt if he's planted on his left foot.
In those days, they used to rough people up, but an objective was to get Y.A. Tittle out of that football game, and the Bears got him out. Larry Morris hit him on his knee, a legal hit, a good, rough, legal hit.
Despite the injury, the Giants led 10-7 at the half.
And I told Y.A. at halftime, I said, hey, we got it. We're leading 10-7. I said, you got us 3 points. That's all we need. Stay out.
And believe me, I'd waited 15, 16 years to get to this position, and I wasn't going to be sitting on the sideline when the New York Giants and my team won the first championship I'd ever be in.
In the second half, Tittle again threw a screen pass, this time intercepted by Bears defensive end Ed Obradovich.
I shouldn't have thrown the ball. I really believe in my own heart that if I'd had a good leg and would have been able to move and scramble around a little bit, I would not have thrown it.
The interception set up another touchdown by Billy Wade, which gave the Bears the lead and the championship 14-10. After the championship game, Sherman and the Giant ownership felt some changes had to be made, including the trading of Sam Huff to the Washington Redskins.
That was probably the worst thing that, other than the death of my mother and father, that could have ever hurt me, to be traded from the Giants. And I took it hard, and I couldn't believe it. And to this day, I don't know why, because I was 29 years old. I never missed a game. I never missed a practice. And very seldom ever missed a tackle.
Unfortunate part of that is that Sam has felt bitter about it, and he's entitled to his feelings. Everybody is when you're on whatever you're doing, if you're involved. However, I don't know if he ever has looked upon one thing. When he was told, and I told him too, I said that deal was a deal made on a football judgment, and a football judgment alone. And we had to do something, we felt, that was going to affect our overall club, not just Sam Huff, middle linebacker.
The 8-year period of 6 division titles and playing in 6 championship games was now over. However, for old Giant fans and the players who were on those teams, those 8 years will always be remembered.